world if that had happened. It
Obviously
really
now, because you've had that success.
Yeah. Will, you had a question. Will, you had a question.
Yeah, no. So like, I kind of always see like that banter where, and I guess like for example, like with Chelsea and well, where would you be without Roman, or like with Man City and like where would you be without your like oil owners or whatever. But it's like can't you kind of say that for every single team because we just happen
about Man United or Liverpool.
Well, wait, hold on, wait, no, like
or Arsenal really.
Wait, but like so what I'm saying by that is these other big teams, their success just came before our lifetimes, right? But now, like a Man City and Chelsea, we're just living through when they become a big successful club.
Yeah,
so
but
like,
the difference is, Will, is it's the origins of these clubs and where they come from. Now, I'm not someone that's against billionaires getting involved in the game, so I'm speaking objectively here. I'm not against it. I never had a problem with Roman, and I never had a problem with the Sheikh. That's because Man United actually generate enough money where we should be able to compete. So maybe that's why it didn't bother me. The problem a lot of people in England have is that, yes, most clubs were owned by the local rich person, as an example. However, all the clubs up until that era that were successful, it was typically bought. Blackburn did it first, by the way, and there was pushback against them in the UK prior. It was typically born out of developing brilliant teams that grew the size of your football club organically over decades and decades and decades, and in some cases over a century. And then Blackburn were the first. And what would happen is then Liverpool started getting massive sponsorship deals in the 70s and 80s because they were winning all these trophies that like nobody else had ever done before. United, obviously, in the 90s, it was just coincidental that Fergie's quality started peaking at the same time as the Premier League came out. We benefited from the growth of being the team at that time. The Premier League started 5 years earlier. The lives of sort of Aston Villa, Everton, and Leeds fans could have been a lot different as well. But essentially, when you speak to fans from these clubs, that you know, we go back those 30, 40 years, the grandparents and the parents of the current fans physically built all these football clubs. And it was always sort of meant to be about you build a good football team and you kind of grow as an example. And there was a feeling of when clubs started getting taken over by, at the beginning, multimillionaires who just pumped unlimited money in, and then billionaires that pumped even more in, there was this feeling that, well, this wasn't ever how clubs became successful, and it kind of went against the sort of grain of and traditions of football in that way. So, look, everyone views it differently, and I'm sure if you've been taken over by a multi-millionaire, like Blackburn fans don't care, and and we're all in that space now. We're owned by billionaires, really and truly. So no one can now sit there and say, well, I'm against it, because you're continuing to support the teams. But that's why there was always a lot of needle that suddenly the landscape had changed in a way that it never had done before, and people felt that it went against the traditions of football here in England. And you got it in Germany. So Germany have a different model with the ownership. Most 95% of Germans cannot stand the Leipzig model because it goes against over 130 years of tradition. And what you've got to remember as well, and I know people won't like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Every country will have this, but for a lot of them, their actual day-to-day life and culture is intertwined with football. So when suddenly that culture changes because and when I say foreign objects, the owners of Blackburn were from the UK, an owner came in and started pumping money in like never before, there is a kickback because it's sort of seen as, hang on, this isn't how this is meant to be, because it's looked at from a cultural perspective as well. And you have that in Germany in a massive way. So again, I'm not against it because because of my age, but that's where the kickback comes from, Will, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Also, Will, City would be in Division 2 if they didn't have the owners. So that's their level. Let's not ever forget that.
Financial doping.
Let's never forget that.
Yeah, no, and as I said, people said, but Terry, like your owners were millionaires. No, I understand that, but these things were built up over generations and generations and generations. And as I said, I'm not opposed to any of these owners coming in before you kick back at me. I'm just telling you, I was just, maybe it's my age, and I was able to speak to older West Ham fans, Spurs fans, Leyton Orient fans, you know, even to this day, you speak to them and a lot of them don't like. There's people in my family that stopped watching football in the 90s because they didn't like the idea of the Premier League. They said the Premier League was never what it was meant to be about. They believed that the Premier League had so much more money than the Championship and all the other, well, it was back then Division 1, that you were creating a gulf and a divide in the country. And a lot of people turned their back on football because of it, because it was never meant, in their view, it was never meant to be that way. So that's why there's always a little bit of needle from fans, but they say without your billion, because there is an element of truth to it. You know, Blackburn wouldn't have had that success had they not had this new owner come in and throw money. It wasn't like it was built up over 100 years. You know, you've got to remember, like Man United's fan base, Man United had over 60,000 strong United supporters club in the 1950s, because Man United would come to London and the Busby Babes would play football, and youngsters from all around London, all around the country, would watch it and go, you know, what is this brand of football? They'd never seen it before. And it was iconic and beautiful. And I'm going to support that team. That's how our fan base started to grow. But that's an organic. And it's not like sort of trying to like sort of gatekeep what people can do. But that was how teams grew in those day and age. So there is a generation of football fans in England who don't like the idea of someone rich turning up and just going, right, we're just going to buy all the best players rather than kind of create one, what was deemed the organic way. But then again, it's evolved again. And another couple of generations, people won't even remember that. It'll all be about how good are your billionaire owners and how much money are they willing to invest? And that's how it's become. So City's owners are looked at as brilliant by the new generation because they spend and they want to win and they've got ambition. And what's the phrase? They're a serious club. So what you've had in the last 30 years is this crossover of generations and football change. So in another 100 years, no one will probably care about it because nobody alive will remember how it used to be. So yeah, it swings and roundabouts. But by then there might be something new that comes in. And the trillionaires take over and all the billionaire kids will go, this is bullshit. I liked it when it was just billionaires, you know? It will happen. It really will happen, in my opinion. So, super chats here. This one says, nicely explained, Terry, and now they can call the Red Cartel. We should be called the Blood, Sweat, and Hard Work Cartel. What I would say about that is that we're all now owned by billionaires. So, in my opinion, none of us can talk like that. We've all gone into somewhere similar to those models, as far as I'm concerned. So no, none of us have we're all standing in a glass house with big rocks in our hands.
Well, we're a little bit different, Terry, because we've got broke billionaires at our club.
Yeah, brokies. Who've invested 300 million. But yeah, broke. Football also did not end when Roman came in. Football clubs tend to dominate when they have money and structure. And listen, that was why that Fergie team that dominated that Roman team. That's why I love them so much, because Fergie's side won more league titles and won more trophies than them. So for me, it was doable. It's always been doable if you were run right. Can we let Pogba go? Do you reckon Pogba's going to come back to United? Anyone think that's going to happen?
Absolutely
no chance.
Should come to Madrid.
I think he'll end up in Saudi or the MLS.
Yeah. Well, Brazil was mentioned, wasn't it? Corinthians.
Brazil. With Neymar.
No, wait. Pogba
well, he's got to Santos
to play at a top club at a high level. So I'm hoping that he stays in Europe.
I think that's the idea, because I think he still wants to compete. Obviously, he wants to bow out at the World Cup in Trump country. But I think to do that, he wants to pretty much maintain his level to pretty much play at the high level. So I don't think Saudi and MLS is where he really wants to be going. So
I think if Pogba's fit, he walks into everyone's team that's on this panel right now. He's a top player, bro.
Oh, absolutely. I love both Paul Pogba.
He's a moments player, though, isn't he? When
he can't play to a match.
But the other.
Yeah.
What do you mean by like moments, though, Henry? Like what does that expression mean? Like when you say
like, that? So like he can grab the game by the scruff of the neck and win it single-handedly.
Okay.
He's got that. He can do an 80-yard diagonal pass to feet. He's flair on the ball. He's fantastic when he's on it. And when he plays for France, he's on it. Like they go against Switzerland in the Euros. I know they got knocked out on penalties, but it was an absolute joke. But can you keep him fit 38 games a season? And this is, let's be honest, his next move is going to be his last move. It's going to be his last big move, and every club's going to be thinking, Pogba on a free, you get the brand, you get the name.
You have to do it.
I don't think Man United will be that club.
But Pogba is an emotional guy, though. Like you can tell by his decision making. Like because I feel like he could have won so much more, right? He could have went to like Madrid, he could have went to Barca, but he chose to go to Manchester United, that big money move, and then maybe instead of then taking that leap when he left on a free to maybe go to a bigger club, then he goes back to Juve. So I think if United are interested, I could definitely see him going back there. But
yeah, if we're interested,
I think it'd be the wrong move, though.
No, I hear you on that. this year says Chelsea have wasted a lot of money on the wrong signings. Between Madueke, Mudryk, and Neto, they spent 175 million. Got Sancho on loan. He's going to cost 25 million, and still willing to spend 65. When you actually look at that, that would be 260 million pound on wingers. And how many would you genuinely say are title-winning level? Sancho?
None.
No, I would say Sancho. He's not proved it in the Premier League for me.
I think they're all very, very inconsistent. You know, Mudryk, well, he's not going to play anytime soon. Madueke, another one who can have 3 out of 10 really good games. Hat-trick against Wolves. He'll grab a couple of goals here or there, but you know, Sancho, lots of ability, massively inconsistent. The one I did think would do a lot better is Neto. I think Chelsea could manage his minutes more, not having to play 90 minutes week in, week out of Wolves.
Yeah.
I thought he would do a lot better.
He's had the availability, just not a lot of output. Chelsea need 2 top quality centre-backs, a top keeper and a world-class striker. The current back line, along with the keeper, is not good enough to win a league or Champions League. I think Chelsea fans would agree with that. The best transfer business Chelsea did since the takeover was sell Kai Havertz and Mount for big money. That's actually true. Well, Kyle Palmer as well, of course. And Caicedo has been very good. Don't forget Sterling is also coming back in the summer. That's true. Sterling's on his way back.
That's another winger that they paid, 50 million for?
Maybe bar Liverpool and United. Everyone else had success when they were rich. Arsenal in the 30s. Why were they rich in the 30s? I would love to know. City with their owners, Blackburn, Forest, etc. There is an element of that, but it's also having the right manager and building the right teams. Just the great side were able to capitalize on it, maintain the income, grow the fan base, and continue growing. You know, and then a lot of teams like Nottingham Forest, bad decisions in the late 80s, early 90s. And hello, gorgeous.
Someone's going to bed.
Night.